at Tottenham, what was the
Yeah.
club like before Daniel Levy took over?
Uh, we are talking in the 90s,
Yeah,
obviously, of course. Uh, White Hart Lane, the traditional was there, the old stand and everything. The training ground, I remember still when I arrived from Italy, let's call it, still from the last century, in a way.
yeah.
It wasn't as when I see it, what they have today, that's a luxury compared to what we used to have that time, in Chickwell. So yes, there's no doubt. Obviously, improvement has been made over the last 30 years on the infrastructure point of view. Well, at that time, the club, from infrastructure point of view, apart the White Hart Lane on the training ground, this was behind in a lot of way. But that was the 90s in English football. Most of the clubs in England were like that.
So you went on loan to Celtic, and then
Yes.
you came back, and there were the new owners. Did like
Yeah.
did the club feel different having new owners at Spurs?
I didn't really go back to Spurs after Celtic because my agreement with Celtic was not renewed at the time, and my contract at Spurs was actually ran out on that loan when I went to Celtic at the time. Coming down to Watford, joining Watford, yes, Spurs comes on the new ownership. Yes, of course, it was new ideas, new direction. I think Alan Sugar took it to the level he could at the time. And then I think Daniel Levy then, had then a vision to build up the club at a different level. I think updating a little bit, I would say, at the time to a level where most European clubs were, I would say, good 10 years ahead to the English football at the time.
So
Hmm.
when you were at Spurs, or even during your career, um, maybe it's fair to say that player welfare wasn't really something spoken about as much as it is now. Um,
No, absolutely. That time, that time was not even discussed all of what we have today. The
yeah,
player today has been well thought of, way much more look into it. Of course, a lot of experience and knowledge got into the last 30 years from what happened in the 90s. If you look at the 90s at that time, when I arrived to Spurs, there was not really a proper gym at the place. You've got like a little David Lloyd's car, you go to a private memberships club where you need to train yourself. Uh, and other things that I can say, but there's no doubt it has improved in many levels, especially in English football, because they were long, long behind when I joined in the 90s in certain health kind of awareness of the players. And I think today is without a doubt because obviously a lot of money got into the system, and they're now being looked after well.
you had your injury at Spurs. Did you feel
Yes.
that they carried out the correct duty of care to make sure that you were okay at the time?
Well, when if I look at back in hindsight, so you can always say, yeah, we could have done that, we could have this, from their side. I think they could have done it much better. In the end, I needed to look after myself because I didn't see any proper, let's call it, added value from medical as such a system in the UK. And then I went to Switzerland to make my operation in Germany. Well, because I see they were well advanced in many ways to the welfare of the player. Yes, Spurs at the time was good and open-minded at the time with Alan Sugar that he let me go abroad to do this. Because I told them because I'm not very comfortable with what I'm having here at the club at that point. I'm assuming today you won't have that because if you pay a player for 60, 70 million quid, you should have at least top-notch medical welfare kind of a system. And we didn't have that at the time. No time.
Said that after Celtic, you didn't really go back to Spurs. Would you
No,
say that was because of a neglect or because there was already a deal agreed?
no, it's because my contract was already run down in Spurs. I was 4.5 years there. So my contract was run out in the summer. And I was expecting to go and stay in Celtic because we had a great season in Celtic winning the treble. Loved to stay up there, to be honest with you. but didn't happen either because they didn't offer me another contract. So that then Watford came, and that brought me down back to London at the time. Yeah, my favourite kind of way of staying would be Celtic because I really had a wonderful season there, winning the treble. And Spurs was not the option anymore because I think for me that's it. I won the League Cup for them. So look back, there was not more else to win there.
A final question. Have you got, could you maybe like share a story on either yourself or someone you know where there's been a complete disregard of someone's welfare by a club?
Disregarders of welfare in the
Yeah,
club.
either from yourself
Uh,
or something that you've seen.
well, if I talk from my personal kind of experience, you know, I went to play with a broken ankle at the League Cup final at Wembley. Well, let's say it that way. I, I didn't knew that I had a broken ankle at the time, and when I went to it, I had lots of pain prior to the games, and it was a very intense period as well. We were also in the semi-finals of the FA Cup, so within a couple of weeks' time, we had the semi-finals of the FA Cup plus the League Cup final to play with, and I remember even in training sessions, I couldn't even stand on my feet. They said, "What the hell is this?" You know, and somehow, from Doc's point of view, I'm not sure they really took it seriously as such. In the same time, I wanted to play, so it's a mixture between me not really being honest about it. It's really painful, and on the other hand, also from another side, well, we needed to check. Let's check out if it's really something bad there, you know. If I look back, it was a kind of risk from my side as well, personally, I would say. But also at the same time, I think responsibility from the medical point of view. Listen, we need to check out everything. I don't care what you feel or not. But just make sure what's happening there. You know, in hindsight, you can always change. But I think that's my personal view. That time experience I had. Yeah, if I look back, yes, I'm happy we won the League Cup, but at the same time, I could actually terminate my career then and there because after the cup final, I went to Switzerland for my doctor. He done an X-ray, and he's looked at me and he said, "Well, I'm not sure if this bone is going to be healing back properly, if you're lucky." So can you imagine, front of him, pretty much my whole career was nearly ending in it, just because stupidly, whatever you want to call it, at the time I went and continued playing without knowing there was already something broken there.